This video is on how to take notes in science. We're going to understand our expectations and procedures for how to take notes on new content. So while you're watching an instructional video, maybe you're completing a reading or an article for your class, you're going to take Cornell style notes in your notebook. You might be familiar with this style from Avid or other classes, and this is just going to highlight either a review for you or go over some specifics for science class. So the first thing you want to do is you want to divide your paper. So right here I have a snapshot of a page. This would usually happen in your science notebook. If you're using notebook paper, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you have a dedicated area where you're keeping all of this information for your class as organized as you can so that you can access it when you need to. So I'm going to start by dividing my top section, dividing my bottom section, and then splitting that big chunk in the middle into a small left column and a bigger right column. Once we have this set, it's time to add a title to our paper. So whatever, maybe it's the title of the video that you're watching, maybe it's the article title or the reading or lab, but your title either way or your topic goes up here so that you can easily identify what this set of notes is about. The other thing you want is the date up in the corner so you know when this happened. It also is particularly important for ordering of things, especially if you're maybe studying for a unit test, so you can keep track of what fits in that category. And you can use your judgment if you want your name there. So if you're submitting your page of notes for grading, you probably want your name on the top. If it's in your notebook that's already labeled with your name, maybe not. So use your judgment for whether your name should be included. This large box is the only section you're filling out while you're watching that video or you're completing that reading the first time. Just that main section. That's where your notes go. So whatever important information you want to write down, or maybe there's drawings, or maybe there's some practice problems that were included in that video or reading, that all goes in that main box while you're watching, right afterward, or while you're reading and want to write a couple of things down. It's recommended that you skip a line between ideas. That just makes it easier to visually see. It makes your notes easier to get through, and it makes them a lot less overwhelming when you're going back and reading them. And you can also abbreviate as needed. These are your notes, so they don't need to be paragraphs on paragraphs of teeny tiny writing with full sentences. They can be bullet points. There can be drawings. There can be practice problems. There can be highlighted information or different colors. It's up to you. It's whatever makes the most sense for your particular reading. But you can have bullet points in there. You have a lot of different options. Whatever works best for you. As long as you understand what the abbreviation stands for, of course. So you can see I have some filled out already. So now we want to talk about, okay, we've already watched the video, we've already done the reading and completed our notes. What's next? So after you've done that, you're going to go back and pull out information to add to this column right here, this left-hand column. That left-hand column is for you, as you're revisiting those notes, to pull out big ideas, to pull out your keywords or maybe new vocabulary that you've learned, and to pull out things like basic science concepts. So maybe you learned kind of a important topic. Maybe it was highlighted in the video or it was part of the main ideas, and you really want to make sure that that's written in this left-hand column so it's easier for you to revisit later on. You can also add questions there, questions that come up as you're going through, maybe questions that you want to make sure you answer later before you have some sort of assessment on this topic. Those all go in this left-hand column, and they should be about the notes on the other side, right? So you wouldn't want to write a topic at the very top that wasn't directly related to the notes right next door. It should be kind of a guide for you, kind of a self-created outline. The last one is that bottom section. That bottom section is a summary section. So you would revisit the notes, relook at those titles from the left-hand side, and try to summarize that information in 2 to 3 sentences. Think of it as if you needed to explain what the video was about or what the reading was about in 2 to 3 sentences, and you would write that down at the bottom. The summaries are particularly helpful when you're reviewing that topic. You can read through those summaries to see if maybe you want to revisit that video. Maybe you want to revisit that reading because that's information that you need a review on. You need to review or study or something like that. The summary only appears on the last page. Maybe there was a bigger reading and you took 2 pages of notes. The summary only needs to appear on that last page because you're summarizing all of the content of those notes. Finally, on this topic, we take notes on individual topics. So your notes should never be 5, 6, 7 pages per topic. It should be concise, it should be useful for you, and they are graded at random. So they won't always be graded, but you also won't always know when they're going to be graded. And that's just to make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable for getting the information that we need. Now the question is, if we have these individual topic notes, what if we're trying to solve a bigger phenomenon? What if we're looking at some bigger idea that we need to try to understand that isn't just a simple note-taking idea? Well, that's where part 2 comes in. And this could be a variety of things in your class. It could be that you're doing a model. It could be that you're completing a lab or a demonstration or a project to understand these bigger ideas. And you'll want to use those individual Cornell notes in order to help you understand kind of the basics of that idea. Another thing you might do is use some graphic organizers. So I'm going to go through just a couple of examples here just to show you some. One option is a Frere diagram. A Frere diagram, you have your topic in the center, and then you complete 4 individual quadrants. So you have your definition or drawing, you have your properties and characteristics, you have maybe some examples, maybe there's sample calculations using that idea, and then some non-examples as well. Here's an idea of what it would look like to give you a better understanding. And some topics might be mostly drawings and only a couple of words. Some topics might be mostly math and only a couple of words. It depends on what you're looking at and how big of an idea that is. Another example of a graphic organizer is a KWL. Then that's something like maybe you get a new topic like global warming. And you, maybe in your group, maybe on your own, would fill out, well, what's stuff that you already know about that topic? What stuff you want to know? What questions do you have about that topic? And you'll notice the L section is blank. That's because you would go back later on and explain what you learned about it. Did you answer all those questions? Something else you're probably familiar with is a Venn diagram, where you're comparing and contrasting 2 ideas that aren't the same, but they're grouped together for some reason, so you can fill out these individual quadrants. There's a lot of other graphic organizers out there. These are just some of the common ones that we might use to help us understand some bigger ideas. I hope this video was helpful. You can always go back and revisit and rewatch certain parts, and just trust that the more that you use these organizers and the more Cornell notes you take, the better you get at using them and the better you get at making them useful for you in terms of increasing your understanding in science.